Welcome, everyone, to the Wellness Exchange. My name is Mika Leah, and I am the CEO and founder of Gumi Group. And today we are diving into one of the most challenging aspects of workplace wellness, creating fitness programs that employees actually stick with for the long term, which I'm excited because I am joined here today by my good friend, Bryce Hastings. He is the head of research at Les Mills International. And Bryce is a leading fitness researcher and the scientific authority behind the Les Mills programs, which sounds very fancy, Bryce, but
It
I
really
know
does.
how big of a role it is. And I'm super honored that you are here today. And the other great thing is that Bryce's research on wellness and exercise strategies for sedentary individuals has been published in numerous scientific and fitness publications. So we know, yeah, before we jump in, Bryce, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. We know that sporadic gym memberships and abandoned wellness initiatives are all too common in both the gym and also in the workplace, right?
Mm.
That we start something and we don't finish it. And I know that when I was teaching cycling classes and yoga classes at a gym years ago, I found that Jan, Feb, everybody was in there, it was packed, and then March it started to die off. So today we are going to explore how behavioral science backed goal setting techniques can transform employee engagement and fitness, creating that lasting behavior that and behavior change, not just lasting behavior, but the behavioral change that seamlessly integrates physical activity into daily routines. So, oh, and one more thing I should note is that I'm really excited about our partnership. So, Gumi, you can find all of the Les Mills content, not all of it, but a lot of it, hundreds of videos from Les Mills on the Gumi Studio. So, again, welcome, welcome. So, before, and I've said this before, and I've said before like three times now, but I want to talk about um, as we get started, sharing what initially drew you, because I love your background and I know we had a chance to sit down and talk about your background. So I'd love for you to share with the audience what drew you to the research-based evidence exercise methodologies.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an interesting journey. So I started off, it feels like another lifetime ago, as a physiotherapist or a physical therapist, as we're called in the US. So I was treating people clinically, and I started working for this fitness company. I had my practice in a gym, and they were starting to take their products and programs internationally. And that company is Les Mills, based in New Zealand, which is why I sound like this. And so when that company started to infiltrate gyms and clubs and different entry points and across the globe, they got me involved to make sure the programs were safe and effective. But then that grew into something bigger because once you've got the programming right, then you need the education to go with the programming. And we found there just wasn't a lot of research in that type of delivery. So then we started a research department, and I work with a lot of universities and a lot of experts in different areas of not just the physiology and the effectiveness of exercise, but also in the effectiveness of behavior change. How do you actually get people to engage in exercise? Because it doesn't matter how effective your exercise is, if no one comes, it's not going to work. So you have to have both. You have to have the effectiveness, and then you have to have the mechanisms behind it that make people want to come and do it.
I love that. So with the effectiveness in the mechanisms, what does the research tell us about the science behind implementing effective exercise habits?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So if you take a scientific viewpoint, and like behavior change is difficult, fitness is difficult. Like it's just not something that everyone really wants to do. And I'm going to come back to that a bit later on. But so there's some scientific strategies that we've tested time and time again that we know works. And the first one is what you alluded to before, it's goal setting. And the trick around goal setting, so we all start, if we're not currently exercising, we all start with a goal. And that goal might be to reduce your blood pressure, or you just want more energy at work. And what we consider those are they're aspirational goals. So that's something that I want to be in the future. And if you just stick with an aspirational goal, even if you write it on a post-it note and put it on your fridge, it's not going to work. You have to turn that aspirational goal into a functional goal. And that functional goal then might be, I need to exercise 3 times next week. So that's your functional goal. So turn your aspirational goal into a functional goal. What does it look like in terms of behavior? And the next step, put that in your calendar. It's got to go on your calendar. Like we're all driven by calendars these days. If it doesn't go on your calendar, you're probably not going to get there. And there's two other surprising things that we've only recently discovered, and this was based on a paper that we published just at the end of last year. There's two other things that you can partner with your goal setting when you put it in your calendar. The night before, you also need to put in a preparation habit. Now, that means that you've organized everything you need to do the exercise the next day. So you've got clean clothes. If
Yeah.
you are not a habitual exerciser and you just arrive at this time to do your exercise and you don't have clean clothes, you're not going to do it. Like it's not going to work. So a preparation habit. And then the other trick is to partner the time you exercise with another existing habit. Now, what I mean by that is if you just randomly pick a time during the day and say, that's the time I'm going to exercise, it doesn't work as well as if you partner it with something that you're already habitually doing. So, at the end of the day, you're packing up your files at work. I don't think anyone packs up files at work anymore, do they?
No, we're all digital.
Right.
You're
That's
aging yourself, Bryce. You're
yeah,
aging
yeah, I
yourself.
am. So in the morning, let's go brushing your teeth. People still brush their teeth. I know that.
Yes, people still brush
So
their teeth.
like straight after brushing my teeth at the morning, that's my trigger to exercise because that's already a habit. So if you use your existing habit as the trigger, you're more likely to implement the new one. So, okay,
Yeah,
so
no, I love
three,
that. And there's a whole book on it called Atomic Habits,
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I love that book because it said, you can take, we always, I think the um, there's a little bit of a misunderstanding in that fitness world and that you have to go big, right? And you have to start big. And I think in the great example that you gave of like brushing your teeth, one of the things you could do is like brush your teeth and then do like, 5 to 10 push-ups at the sink, right? Just lean against the sink, take a couple steps away and do like 5 to 10 push-ups. It'll take you less than 10 minutes, like less than 1 minute. And it's like that little habit. And I love what you said about the preparation. And I think that the preparation is usually what people get wrong. And it's so funny because I'm a single mom today. My hubby's out at a conference for the week. And so I said to my son last night, I was like, listen, I'm not going to be able to wake you up in the morning. So I need you to prep your bag for rugby today. So it's teaching, I think it's also the little habits that we teach our kids, but maybe forget to do ourselves. Like, lay out your clothes for the next day, pack your bag. Do you have everything? Do you have your mouth guard and your water bottle and everything else he needs for rugby? And I love that you said it's the preparation because I think we always think about just doing it, but we don't think that you need that habit to do it and then matching that habit with the actual pairing it with something you do on the regular. And I love that. And even if it's packing up for work, packing up for work and heading off to the gym or going to the gym before work or even fitting it in at lunchtime, just a little walk during the day, I think is really easy. So all of that is, around, we always have barriers, right? So when we think about, yes, we can pack our bag, but we might take our bag and throw it in the back of our boot of our car. But what are some of the common obstacles that are preventing people from maintaining that consistency of physical activity? And what practical techniques, just like planning and preparing, can companies, because a lot of our people here are HR folks. So what are companies, what are the things that the companies can do to remove those barriers? Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you touched on a couple of things before. One of the big things that get in the way of people exercising is that they just go too big. They think that it all has to happen now. And so everything else we do in life, we probably put in incremental steps, but often with fitness, we just go too big. So I think that's a really important one. So um, and I think one of the other mistakes is that people, and I think the fitness industry has been guilty of this for a really long time. We prescribe exercise to people based on
Mm.
outcomes, like based on the effect of the exercise. People who are new to exercise are way better off focusing on something that they enjoy. that they want to do again. And that's kind of why I said before about having to exercise versus wanting to exercise. There's a big difference. Like people who are regular exercisers want to do it. People who struggle to get exercise started are usually doing it because they have to do it. Now, if you find something that you enjoy or something about that session that you like, you'll be drawn back to it. So you won't be doing it because you have to do it. There's something that you want to do. And that's huge. And in research terms, we call that shifting from extrinsic to intrinsic motivation. If you're intrinsically motivated, the activity becomes the reward. The activity becomes the reward. If you're extrinsically motivated, the outcome of the activity is the reward. And that might happen a long time down the track, and it may never happen at all. But if you're intrinsically motivated, where the activity itself is rewarding, then you're going to keep going. You're going to keep going. And that, so it doesn't matter what we say now, is you find what you love to do and we'll take care of the rest. So you find any Les Mills program that you want to do or any program, if you're being active on a regular basis, that's going to take care of all the things you need. Just find what you like to do and just stick with that. Like that's to me is like a big message, and I think something that we don't talk about enough. And in terms of HR staff and people who are overseeing these types of strategies, education is huge. Like just educating people about the like effective goal setting, educating people about picking something that they enjoy versus feeling like they have to do something because it's the right thing. If you enjoy it and you're moving, it is the right thing. So I think like education is huge. And I also think from HR perspective, finding like little challenges for people. So it's not such a big stretch. It's not like I'm signing up for this thing that I have to do for the rest of my life. Like, let's not think about that. That's too big. But if you create a wellness challenge for what month are we in now? We're in June. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But we're in June, halfway through the year. Let's have a June challenge. It could be like just June breathing. Yeah, let's just focus on
Yeah.
breathing for June, right? So, um, yeah, I'm not sure if that's the best challenge. I don't actually know where that how that popped into my head, but
Well, it's
it
the easiest thing to do,
really
and it's
is.
a good place to start.
Yeah,
Breathing.
yeah. So we'd all do 10 minutes breath training for a day,
Yeah. Yeah.
all through June. And so that it just gets people into the habit of doing something, but it's a short step and it's an easy reach. It's just 10 minutes of breathing. So I think from an HR perspective, that's where I'd be focusing on, like like short-term challenges and then rewards. Like if you get through it all, then you kind of get some sort of
Yeah.
recognition that you made it.
So there's so much good stuff in there. So I think there's the first part of that was the education, helping employees get educated and providing them the education. And I know, that's my favorite part of what Gumi does is
Mm.
that education. So we just had a seminar, Foundations of Nutrition, and we've done ones on just healthy habits and getting started. Or I just gave one earlier this week on heart health and just staying active in like little habits. So I think education is key and it's such a great place to start. And then the other thing, what you were saying, which I think is really important for people to take away, which is finding something that works for everyone. You can't just offer a HIIT class or a yoga class or even a meditation class because that might not fit for everybody. And I think it's really
Mm.
important for people to find what they love, what they enjoy. Because if you enjoy the physical activity of it, then you're going to do it more. But it's really important for HR to try a bunch of stuff to see
Right.
what works. And then I want to get into, and the challenges is great. We're actually running a challenge right now in the month of June because it is halfway through the year. So we're doing a fitness challenge actually with our Les Mills collection.
Great.
It's called Journey to Health, and it's starting off slow. And I think that that's what's really key about this
Yeah.
is it's 30 minutes of starting off slow. And Les Mills is actually gave us the suggestion of taking one of those days during the week and allowing people to walk and be social. So those are two different days, right?
Right.
One, just get outside and walk. And the other one is like grab a friend because then you have your accountability. But what I really want to dive into, because all of those are really good, that's really great information, but this intrinsic versus extrinsic. And we
Yeah.
talked about this like in our prep call. And I want to dive in, and one of the questions came up. Can you give us an example of extrinsic versus intrinsic, and maybe 2 to 3 examples of each, just so people can wrap their head around to make sure that they're focused more on the intrinsic than and I'll start you off. I have a big event coming up on Saturday. I'm really excited. I have not eaten sugar all week in preparation for it because I really want to fit in my dress. Intrinsic or extrinsic, Bryce?
Okay, so if you want to fit in your dress, that's your extrinsic goal. Like, and extrinsic goals are good to initiate the change. Like sometimes we need that, right? Like you need to find out that you need to get your blood pressure down, or you want to drop a dress size for a wedding or whatever. And so that's your extrinsic focus. So then you match that with something that's intrinsic. So if you might have given up sugar, but if you've said I'm going to give up sugar by eating more celery, that's going to be a disaster because like who likes celery, let's face it. But if you find like a fruit or a vegetable that you don't mind replacing with like your sugar with, then that's going to make it easier for you because now you've got some sort of attraction to the change. So there's always got to be a level of something that you want to do there, right? And when you do it, it can't be awful because that's just going to, push you back to your previous behavior. So in exercise, like I have friends who they love indoor cycling. They're like, and you love indoor cycling, but not everyone loves indoor cycling. But they know it's good for them, so they think they should. And as soon as you think I should, it might not be right for you. There's got to be something within there that you want, right? There's got to be something like you might start the class, you might try it out, and you think, I don't think I'm going to like this. I'm here because I have to. But if you finish that session and you finish that cycle session and you like get off your bike and you think, actually, that wasn't so bad. I want to do that again. If you have that I want at the end of it, then you're in the right space. Like if you come off that bike and you think, I want to do that again, great. If you come off that bike and think, I never want to do that ever again, don't do it again. Like just find something else because there are so many ways to be active.
Yeah.
We know how powerful walking outside is. We know how powerful social exercises, like lining up with a friend. There's just got to be something within the environment that you actually like. So there's lots of examples of it, but don't discount extrinsic motivation because it is powerful. Like if you want to drop a dress size, great. That's your push. Now do it by finding something that you like to do.
Yeah. What's another great example of intrinsic? Just like one more example for people.
Okay, uh, in the current fitness world, I think there's been a big shift towards mind body.
Mm,
And I think, and it's hard to measure this, but I think people are walking out of a mind body class feeling kind of that sense of renewal and restoration.
mm,
That's intrinsic. They're not there because they want to get longer hamstrings or they want to sit in some sort of weird yoga pose for long periods of time. No one wants that. But like they leave feeling like they feel better. So that
yeah.
it's another intrinsic driver. So if you leave with that sense of renewal and regeneration, you're going to come back because you want that again. Whereas if you do a hit program and you kind of come out and you just feel smashed and awful and you can't do anything for the rest of the day, that's probably not going to be it for you. So
Right.
anything that just gives you that instant feedback that you're on the right track is more likely to become an adherent new behavior than something that you think you should do.
So when we think about the new behaviors and the things that we should do and that consistency, because I think consistency is the hardest for everyone here, right?
Mhm.
And from
Mhm.
the HR standpoint, engagement is always the hardest. Like,
Right.
how do you keep your employees engaged? And so my question for you is, what are your top recommendations for creating fitness programs that move employees from sporadic participation to consistent engagement?
Okay, so we've talked about goal setting, that's important, and things that help you achieve your goals, like preparation and instigation,
Yep.
partnering with something that you're already doing. We've talked about the type of movement, and I'm kind of getting away from exercise. I'd rather talk about movement because sometimes exercise is too big for people, but moving
Yeah.
kind of feels something like something we can all do. And then so you pick a movement that you like. And then the other thing that I would get people to think of is just meeting people where they're at. Like,
Mhm.
so, and by that I mean we all need to feel confident in what we're doing and confident in our ability to execute. in research terms, we call this self-efficacy, which is like a weird term, but it's really important. If you ask somebody to do something and they don't feel like they have the ability to execute, they won't do it. And I think we make a mistake with this. And in fitness, you just need to walk into a gym and you see people in there who look like they're in a science experiment. Like they look like they're so someone told them like you just have to do this, like just do it, stop thinking about it. And they look miserable because they are. So and that means that they haven't been met where they're at. And from an HR perspective, I was kind of reading stats the other day, and it was talking about the level of fatigue in adults in the US. And I think the stat was that 65% of adults are affected by fatigue in a way that it reduces performance in a work environment.
Mm,
Fatigue, like it's so prevalent. Okay, so if you've got 65% of adults who occasionally feel days where they're just nailed, like they're fatigued, they're having trouble recovering from life, um, then you don't really want to start them on an aerobic exercise program because they're already on the back foot. So you kind of put cardiovascular exercise on top of that, and it's just going to be no. So meeting people where they're at, recognizing that people sometimes just need a period of restoration before they actually
mm,
start to embark on something else, and using those techniques to cement the behavior and the consistency, which is what you were talking about before. So instead of
right.
thinking, okay, I need to go walking and get out of breath 3 times next week, if you're in a fatigued state, use those 3 sessions to do some yoga and some mindfulness training and some meditation so that you're actually coming out of those sessions feeling better. And then once you're starting to feel better, more consistency, then start to introduce the next phase, which might be some sort of cardiovascular exercise when they feel up to it. But I think like that goes back to that old, the old fitness industry mentality where we prescribe fitness to people and say, well, you have to get, fit in a cardiovascular sense. So I think meeting people where they're at is really powerful.
I love the meeting people where they're at. And I always say, I'm always talking to people about how to make things work within your day and
Mm,
like these micro movements, right? Micro
mm,
movements, micro habits, and starting with what you like, exactly what you were saying. I think that that's and I think we are all tired. And what I love to recommend, not prescribe, but what I love to recommend for people is like just doing like 2 minutes of breath work or a 5 minute meditation is really rejuvenating. And I think you're right that finding even a walk outside, I find that and I'm sure there's a whole science behind walking outside. It's as simple as just going for a walk around the building, right?
mhm.
Walk out the building, do a little circle, start in one area and just do a little circle. And whether that's 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I think that that also helps with fatigue. And I think the important people, what you were saying is that meeting people where they are at. And I love that because I think that's one of the things that we try to do with Gumi Group. And I encourage all of our HR folks is meeting people where they're at, making it accessible, right? When you meet people where they're at, you make wellness accessible for them. So whether it's on demand on an app, whether it's offered at lunchtime at the office, or whether you allow your employees to come in when they want, right? So if they're dropping off the kids at 7, they can get to the gym by 8 and then they're in by 9. So
Yeah.
maybe the office culture is a little bit more accepting and
Mm,
open to that because I think everybody needs that. And for different phases of life too, right?
mm, mm.
When I think we can think back and when we were younger, I could go to the gym before work. I didn't have
Mm.
any responsibilities. And then when you have kids, it's like, ugh, I can't go before work and I can't go after work. So let's do it in like, during the day. And then I'm
Yeah.
sure as, the kids take off for uni and you start to become an empty nester, then you're like, yeah, I can go back to working out after work maybe. So that accessibility is really key. And I feel like we've learned so much, Bryce. Is there any other words of wisdom you wanna share?
Yeah, I think we also underestimate the power of community.
Mm,
And I have a good friend who he's a Scottish guy and he used to, deliver some of these sessions with me, Dave Kyle, who you've met, like he's
yeah.
gym in your area. And he had the saying that your tribe attracts your vibe. So your vibe comes from your tribe. So the people around you help you get your vibe, and get kind of help you do what you want to do. So, surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, who are also trying to, do a bit better and engage in movement and being active and restorative techniques, like just don't underestimate the power of a group. And I think that's what HR individuals have the ability to do is actually mobilize the tribe and get them all cohesive, heading towards the same objective. Don't underestimate how powerful that is because once you know it's a community thing, you are not going to let your team down. You'll let yourself down way before you'll let your team down. So, just getting those team goals going, I think is really powerful.
Well, and I think on that note too, it's about getting the team together and building the
Yep.
company culture, right?
Right.
Is
Yeah.
that once you have a company culture that does things together,
Yeah.
whether it's a meditation, whether it's a yoga class, maybe it's just 3 minutes during the day, maybe it's just the acceptance of like picking a buddy and going for a walking meeting. Um, Once you build that culture, then you have your tribe. And I don't
Mhm.
know, it's like the chicken or the egg, right? Do you
Right.
offer these programs and that builds culture, or do you have this great culture and they're encouraged to take the classes together? And that is
Yeah.
a great question, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
the chicken or the egg,
Yeah.
but the at the base of that, it really is about the community. And I think HR folks have that opportunity. They're sitting in the spot where they
Yeah.
can actually affect change on a positive note in that way.
Right.
So I think that that's great. All
Yeah.
right, so we are right on the hour. This has been so valuable, Bryce. I love our conversations from the first moment we met. I really enjoyed having this conversation. So if there's any questions, go ahead and throw it in the chat. If not, I think, there's that idea of community is that one really good takeaway
Yeah.
that I think is amazing. And I'm so excited that everybody was able to join us for this wellness exchange. If We will provide the recording to those who have registered. We will also post it on LinkedIn and on our YouTube. So if you didn't get a chance to ask your questions, do let us know. Um, Reach out to us. It will be in the chat. We've got Bryce's information, our information at Gumi Group. And for more information about Les Mills International Research or Gumi Group's wellness offerings, just please visit our respective websites. And thank you again for your participation. And remember, the best fitness program is the one your employees will actually do consistently,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Bryce. I
Thanks so
appreciate
much
your
for having
time
me. It's
today.
been fun. Thank you.
It was fun. Thank you. Have a good
Okay.
one.
Thanks.
Bye.